What's up, guys? It's your boys Awoki back out with another Chris Watts video. And today I can't believe I've actually not looked at this a little bit more in depth, but we're actually going to be looking at the Chris Watts letters that were revealed about all his stuff he did to Miss Cato. And we're going to be watching it through True Crime, or Oz True Crime. Dr. Oz, as you will. Another great YouTube channel I love and so forth, and series in itself. But we're going to be watching pretty much Dr. Oz's take on the true crime of this Chris Watts murders, which is another reason why I want to do this, is because the professionals, not me, the junior detective, have stated a lot that is wrong with this case, including Nicole Kessinger and everything else. We've literally looked at an interview of him stating that Nicole Kessinger had bipolar. She was like not stable. She had some weird moments where she laughed to herself. We've heard that laugh. It's definitely scary in itself, but we're going to be taking a look at that all right now with my reaction and watching this video, which I'm surprised I haven't watched it before. So with that being said, grab a chair, get set, and let's get into this by hitting the subscribe button down below. Hit the bell icon next to it so I do post videos like this one. You guys will get that little ring notification that Zwokey myself has posted that video. And then you guys can watch, comment, like, and share. And again, I thank you guys so very much for that continued love and support. We are booming by the numbers. We're trying to get to 50K so I can give one of you lucky people at home a MetaQuest 3 virtual reality headset for free. And all you have to do is enter on any video, win the giveaway, and you're entered when we hit 50K. Also, go over to Dr. Oz, watch a lot of his content. I definitely enjoyed watching his stuff. I continuously watch his stuff. I'm surprised I still, to this day, have not watched this video. So we're going to watch it and see what more we can learn, what more we already know, and just overall take a look at the videos by Miss Cato. So let's take a look.
Dear Sherilyn, I arrived at the Weld County Jail the night of August 15th.
Chris Watts, his letters from jail, and an Oz exclusive.
Is he admitted that he actually killed his daughters not once, but twice?
His words, his details, his confession.
When he put his hands on her neck, he couldn't let go.
Coming up next.
Season 11 starts now.
This was posted not quite a while
I became
ago.
a doctor to help
3
people
months.
heal.
Huh.
Now I'm using the same science and medicine to take on true crime.
But we're going to watch it
On
anyways.
today's True Crime, Colorado dad Chris Watts horrified the country when he confessed to brutally murdering his wife, Shannan, their unborn son, and their daughters, Bella and Celeste. Now, in his series of prison letters, he's revealing shocking new details about his crimes for the first time. Today, I'm sitting down exclusively with the woman who received these letters from Watts, so we can understand why would a father do this. But first, take a look at the monstrous acts Chris Watts committed that landed him in prison for the rest of his life.
For Nicole Kessinger.
The story shocked the world. A devastated father pleading for the return of his pregnant wife and their 2 small daughters, who'd vanished after his wife returned from a weekend business trip. If you're out there, just come back. If somebody has her, just please bring her back. I need to see everybody. I need to see everybody again. To
Shouldn't
the
he say
outside world
everyone?
and on social media, Chris and Shannan Watts appeared a picture-perfect couple, shown smiling together with their 2 young girls and happily anticipating the birth of their 3rd. But just hours after his impassioned plea for their return, Chris Watts would confess to his father that he'd killed his pregnant wife after accusing her of strangling their 2 young daughters.
I freaked out. No, just this rage.
But ultimately, Watts would be arrested and charged with killing 34-year-old Shannan, 4-year-old Bella, 3-year-old Cece, and his unborn child. Their bodies were found on the grounds of the petroleum plant where Watts worked. Shannan in a shallow grave,
Yeah, for those that say we should just get over this, that's why we don't get over this.
and the little girls placed inside oil and gas tanks. Chris Watts ultimately pleaded guilty to murdering his entire family.
The most inhumane and vicious crime that I have handled out of the thousands of cases that I have seen.
Watts was sentenced to life in prison, leaving Shannan's devastated family and friends with so many questions. In search of answers, recently retired grandmother Sherilyn Cadle approached Watts to take part in a book she was writing about the case. Surprisingly, he agreed. The result? Startling new first-hand confessions Watts made to Cadle in letters and during visits she made to him in prison. Today, Sherilyn Cadle shares insights into what really turned Chris Watts from a seemingly devoted husband and father into a cruel, cold-blooded killer.
Nicole Kessler.
Sherilyn Cadle joins us now. She's the author of the new book, Letters from Christopher, The Tragic Confessions of the Watts Family Murders. Sherilyn, you've never written a book before. You've never even reached out to a prisoner.
No.
Why Chris Watts?
I don't know, just seeing him the morning of, on the front porch when he was
We knew.
Looking for his family and
You could tell.
telling the TV cameras that they just vanished. I knew by watching him he was guilty. It was easy to see that he was. And I felt something. I felt called to write this.
And that's why I feel called to find the words to put forth to show that NK was involved. That's why what she's saying right here is what I feel with NK.
Story that to help get in his mind enough to see why he would do something like that to his family.
In order to write the story, you have to get in touch with him. You have to gain his confidence. We're going to talk about a lot of these letters in a second, and I've read through them, and there are specific questions I have, but there are some horrific things that he admitted to you in conversations and in the letters. One of the things that struck me powerfully, as a father and his grandfather, is he admitted that he actually killed his daughters not once, but twice.
Yes.
What did he mean by that?
Well, the morning of, he went into his baby girls' rooms and took a pillow from their bed and smothered them. And then he went into his room with Shannan and lay down next to her. They argued a little, and he murdered her. So then he was wrapping her in the sheets, and both girls got up and saw him and started questioning what's wrong with Mommy, what happened to Mommy. Bella, the oldest one, was crying. She had obviously been traumatized. She had bruises above her eyes, and you could tell she'd been traumatized. And also, Cece was more kind of confused, but she was awake, the younger one. So they ran around the house, literally, and cried and was watching what was going on as he drugged Shannan down the stairs. He couldn't pick her up, or he tried to pick her up, but she was too heavy for him. They were in
So that states right there just what she said. I'm not saying that I believe Chris. I'm not saying I don't think that Cadle doesn't know what she's talking about. She went there to seek answers. So I'm not saying anything bad about Miss Cadle. But when Chris just stated there, he couldn't pick her up. So how the hell did he apparently get her in that truck by herself? How did he get her out to Survey 319 and then drag her out to the hole? That phrase right there in itself, again, we can't believe anything Chris says because he lies like nonstop, but he could not pick her up. He had to drag her down. I think he had to drag her up because she was in the basement. I still think my theory, again, it's educational purposes that I'm stating this. It's not fact. But it just said right there, Miss Cadle said that he could not pick her up. So how did he put her in the truck?
a two-story home, so he drug her down the stairs.
Oh my goodness.
Put her in the back of his pickup truck, and then proceeded to put each of the girls in the back seat with their little feet dangling over the seat on top of their mommy.
Which puts a dampener in Cindy Watts stating that, oh, he didn't kill the girls. Shannan did. Again, we can't believe a word on both sides because they're just, what do they call it? Habitual liars? They're just ridiculous.
And they rode an hour like that to the oil fields.
He drove them to their burial ground.
Yes. So
They trusted their father.
oh, of course they did. You know, they loved him. You know, Bella's seen on cameras singing the song, Daddy, You're My Hero. He was the one that was entrusted to take care of them. So
Chris told Sherilyn that his daughter Bella was the only one who put up a fight, saying, I'm quoting this, I will hear her soft little voice for the rest of my
Daddy,
life.
no.
She was saying, Daddy, no. Daddy, no. I mean, you're a mom, a grandma. How hard is it to hear that even now?
it's very hard. I have a 3-year-old granddaughter myself, and I can't even imagine her skinning her knee. It hurts me. It's been difficult, at best. It's been very difficult.
He said lots of things to you, and I want to get into his mind, which is why I wanted to have you on.
Yes.
One issue is how aware is he of what he did and currently doing? He apparently made overtures to his ability to take care, for example, of that 3-year-old granddaughter. Is that true?
Yes, he asked me if I was out of prison now, would you allow me to watch your grandchild?
Hell no.
And he, by saying that, was trying to say he, you know, has remorse enough that he would never hurt anyone again. So, and it's easy for me to say, absolutely not.
But if you're willing to kill your own, no other kid would mean anything to you.
I would never leave my grandchild. And Christopher, what are you thinking by asking that question?
What does it say about him that he even asked the question?
That's creepy.
Does he think he's trustworthy?
I think he does. He's narcissistic. Very much everything is about him. Through a lot of the confessions that he made to me, a lot of it has been about how badly he hurts and how badly it is for him.
Not her.
Which seems very narcissistic to me.
Why does he say he did it? This is a man, I've been searching for clues that he could have even done this. I can't find any reason why any of us sitting here right now would have suspected he could possibly even do it.
Right. He was very much a seemingly family man, good dad. Spent a lot of time with the girls, helped his wife around the house, helped her while she did her sales and that type of thing. So, you know, asking him, why wouldn't you just get a divorce? Because millions of people get divorces, so why wouldn't you just walk away if you had to be away from Shannan? Because he says the reason is, well, he'll go back and forth with blaming different things. You know, the mistress, the fact that he didn't pray for 3 months before this happened, that there's a darkness that was over him. He's even went as far as saying a demon was in him, which maybe that's true. If you can do something like that, it does seem a little evil, very evil, actually.
Yeah. Although evil is clearly, this is the definition of it, but I'm curious, I mean, does he blame his mistress, for example? Does he say it was her? If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have murdered my wife, unborn child, 2 beautiful daughters. How does he excuse this in his mind?
I don't know, because that is exactly what he has said. If I had never met Nikki,
I would have never done this.
This would never have happened.
Which I do believe that's the only thing I trust that he says. I think it's because he was given attention. He was given something that Shannan didn't give him, which Shannan was trying to give him everything. But he wanted different. He didn't want the kids. It's like, for him, he bought the item, didn't like it, wanted to return it. So instead of, and then they told him no, he couldn't return it because he had used it for so long. And when he tried to, when they didn't return it, he destroyed it. It's a bad analogy, but that's pretty much what he did.
Says, which makes absolutely no sense to anyone at all.
But
he's so very, you know, Christopher has he's not outgoing at all. He's very closed
Shy.
off. I never saw emotions from him. I didn't see him laugh. I didn't see him cry. I didn't see him excited. He's very quiet. So, you know, he's been harder to read than some people because you get nothing. It's just like a blank.
Well, as I go through these letters, he's saying things to me in his writing, which I want to come to when we come back, because we're discuss the claims of demon possession. And we're also going to talk about the rumors of a gay affair, which have been raised.
See, I don't know about
Shannan's
that.
revealing even more from her conversations with Chris Watts. We'll be right back.
A letter to author Sherilyn Cadle, convicted murderer Chris Watts writes, August 12th. When I finished putting the girls to bed, I walked away and said, that's the last time I'm going to be tucking my babies in. I knew what was
So it's
going to happen the
premeditated
day
right there.
before, and I did nothing to stop it. I couldn't stop myself from what I knew would occur the next morning. I am so thankful the Lord has delivered me from whatever evil was tormenting me and my family. I just wish they were still here.
No, you don't.
We're back with exclusive new details on the shocking case of Chris Watts, the Colorado father currently serving 5 life sentences for brutally killing his wife, unborn child, and 2 daughters. Over the past 6 months, he's opened up to a woman named Sherilyn Cadle about why he committed this horrific crime. Sherilyn's documented her letters, phone calls, and prison visits with Chris in a new book called Letters from Christopher, and she's joining us today. Chris told you that he may have been possessed by demons before these
Yeah, his own
brutal
demon.
and very betraying murders. How did that take place in his mind? How does he describe that?
Well, he says because he doesn't feel like it was really him that committed
Cop
these
out.
murders. That he knew ahead of time that he was going to do it, but he couldn't do anything to stop it.
Yes,
He
he
felt a
could've.
darkness over him, and in fact, when he killed his family, he said, especially Shannan, when he put his hands on her neck, he couldn't let go. It was like a force holding him with his hands on her neck. And looking at it, thinking he should pull his hands off, but couldn't.
Did he share that he could have gone on and killed others, that killing didn't really matter to him?
Oh, yeah. He said at that time, during that time, and all the way through up until after he left the oil field, that he could have killed anything that came in his path and felt justified doing it.
Felt justified.
Wow.
I'm just going to read. This is page
Sick
10
man.
of one of the letters. And there's, it actually has neat handwriting. I don't know what that says about somebody, but.
Yeah.
So he signs it up in Christ, signs his name. Then he has scripture. He quotes, Timothy, Peter. I mean, he's talking about, to you anyway, the way a spiritual person might talk. He says, God bless you at the end. And I'm still trying to put my head around. It seems like an apparently normal person, a man, committed the worst of all possible crimes.
trying to-
You can begin to
I can't say
appreciate why
anything.
churches, the
not my
Catholic Church in
judgment.
particular, might believe in demon possession. Because it seems like something happened to him.
Yes, it does. I mean, I have no idea about demon possession. I'm not sure that darkness wasn't always in him,
Even though he never showed signs of it that we can tell.
right, that we know.
Did you ever ask him if he tortured animals or did other things that, say, sociopaths, mass murderers, serial murderers?
I did, and he says
He's
no,
a quiet killer.
that he had never done anything at all like that. But it was kind of interesting, too. Their dog, Dieter, didn't like him. I'm like, did the dog sense something, or was it because of the way he treated the dog? I don't know. Very different.
Maybe both.
Maybe both.
In one letter to Sherilyn, Chris wrote, the darkness inside of me had won. It was still in me, though. I felt like I could kill anything and be justified for doing it.
That's
You
messed
mentioned
up.
that he had that sentiment. Did you feel unsafe in his presence?
Well, I didn't, because there was always at least 3 guards close by. He was sat in a seat across a little table from me, and he was not allowed to move as far as get up or anything. He
Oh,
had
so
to
she
stay
actually
in that
face-to-faced
chair.
him.
And if he hadn't, they'd have been on him.
So after this horrific crime made headlines, a man came forward claiming he also had an affair with Chris Watts.
See, I don't know about this one.
This, for a lot of people, muddied the waters quite a bit. Did Chris have any thoughts on this? Did he admit it? Did he deny it?
Well, what's interesting is he didn't even know that he was accused of that until after he had already been sentenced and was in prison. He said he has no idea who the person is, and there was absolutely never a thought of him being gay or being in a gay relationship. So he kind of brushed it off because he said he
Why I
doesn't know
call
anything about it.
BS on that one.
Did you believe him?
I think I
See,
did.
We can't.
Yeah, I think I did.
Did you become proficient in your mind, telling when he was lying and not?
I think so. I'm not a doctor, so I can't diagnose him with, that, but I could kind of tell. When he was telling the truth, and I'm not kidding, his eyes would go dark when he would talk about the murders. And just dark. And it was very strange to me. And I asked him if anyone else had ever told him that since the murders, and he had been told that his eyes would go dark when he would talk about it.
Shanann's family has some very serious concerns with Sherilyn's book. Coming up, we're going to hear how they feel about these horrific new details from Chris Watts' crimes being made public.
They don't believe it.
Jeffrey Epstein's accusers, the side
Get
you
over
haven't
it.
heard.
Murdered his pregnant wife Shannan and their 2 young daughters, Bella and Cece. He pled guilty to multiple counts of first-degree
He's
murder
never
and was
getting
sentenced
out.
to 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole. From prison, he began writing to author Sherilyn Cato. In an excerpt from one letter, Chris admits, "I can say with a certainty that I always loved Shannan and always will, but there was always this lingering fear that I would do something wrong."
Those were the chilling words of convicted killer Chris Watts. That's from just one of the many letters he wrote to Sherilyn Cato, who joins us exclusively today. So Sherilyn, I'm going to broach a sensitive topic.
Okay.
We reached out to Shanann's family for a response to the publication of Sherilyn's book, and they told us they had been led to believe the focus of the book will be about Christopher's journey to find redemption through Christ while in prison for his crimes. I'm quoting them. They now feel deceived that it's being marketed as a true crime story, and they say they're devastated. They went on to say Mr. Watts' crimes have been a tragic loss not only for them, but to those who knew and deeply loved their daughter and grandchildren. Ms. Cato took advantage of Mr. Watts and willfully deceived the family in mourning over a very recent and tragic loss. You can read the Shannan family full statement on DrOz.com. So let
check
me
it out
just
if you
ask you
want.
directly so you have a chance to defend yourself. Did you misrepresent the intentions of your book?
Absolutely not. When I first started writing the book, the word had gotten to Shanann's parents that I was writing a book. Their attorney called me, and I told
Wow.
them then we made a deal with each other, and the deal was because they wanted to know if I was going to share the money with the Ruzeks, and I said, well, made a deal with Christopher that there would be no money exchange between us. He can't have money anyway. And in exchange for that, I would write the story of his forgiveness and redemption in at least one chapter of the book. And I told him I could not be held to any specific thing. I said the book will be his confession will be in there. And at that time, it was the beginning of the book. So I didn't know what all I was in for yet. I had not even received the letter yet, talking about
Wow, I didn't know this.
killing the girls twice. And so Christopher was never deceived. As you can see, he wrote all the letters, many, many letters to me. But I was also told by my attorney not to reach out to them. I wanted to tell them what he had told me, the more recent information about killing the girls twice. And my attorneys advised me just to leave it alone.
Shanann's family is also arguing that you promised to send them a copy of the book before it was seen widely, an advanced copy. Is that true?
No, it's not. I asked their attorneys if they would like to have a voice in the book. I was told no, that they would not. And I understood that. It was so soon after the
understood
crime.
too.
My heart hurts for those people. So I understand anger and upset, but I told him if she didn't want to have voice in the book, that I would not be letting her read the book before. And so that's the way we left it. They never got a hold of me again.
Do you feel that you've treated Shannan's family fairly in your mind?
Oh, absolutely. I've done nothing to hurt them. My book is not in any way bashing Shannan or the girls. My heart hurts for these people. I have nothing in the world against them in any way. And I just hope that if I've hurt them, that they will forgive me of that, because I didn't hurt them intentionally. I wanted the truth to be told to them.
Amen.
So that maybe they can move forward with their lives.
Thank you for being with us. You can read more of Sherilyn's conversations and letters with Chris Watson in her new book, Letters from Christopher, The Tragic Confessions of the Watts Family Murders. Now, coming up, Chris claims that if he'd never met his mistress, he wouldn't have committed these murders. But where is his ex-mistress, Nicole Kessinger, today?
Here we go.
And are there signs that Chris would kill again if given the opportunity? Stay here.
Hold on.
August 13th, morning of. I went to the girls' room first, before Shannan and I had our argument. I went to Bella's room, then Cece's room, and used a pillow from their bed. That's why the cause of death was smothering. After I left Cece's room, then I climbed back in bed with Shannan, and our argument ensued. After Shannan had passed, Bella and Cece woke back up. I'm not sure how they woke back up, but they did.
We're back with the latest on convicted killer Chris Watts. The Colorado father is serving 5 life sentences for killing his wife,
never getting out,
child, and 2 daughters. Here with the latest, our investigative reporter, Mars Gavacampo, CNN and HLN legal analyst and defense attorney, Joey Jackson, and crime correspondent.
So professionals, okay? Professionals.
Melissa Moore. So I appreciate you all coming. It's a sensitive topic. We have these letters. This is the first time being released to us, so we have deeper insights into what was going on in Chris Watts' mind. You've read these letters, you've heard the stories, Sherilyn's comments earlier. Mara, what do you make out of this? What stands out the most to you about his tone? And I'll pass these letters down.
Yeah, you
We've
know,
all seen them.
in reading these letters, we realized that these crimes were even more horrifying than we'd initially realized. When I was reading these letters, I literally felt nauseous. And one of the most nauseating things about them is his tone, the completely matter-of-fact way that he describes committing the most awful acts that a human being can commit, completely emotionally detached. So I wanted a little bit of insight into that. So I reached out to a forensic psychiatrist, Dr. Clay Watson.
Another professional.
And he said that these letters show typical signs of a psychopath. That psychopaths don't view people as people, they view them as objects to be manipulated. And another thing that stood out to me with the tone was the ego, the tremendous ego and arrogance of Chris Watts. And it's no surprise that he agreed to be part of a project that at least in part was
because it's all about the, oh, look at all these people that are sending me messages and stuff like that now that I can be proud about that people love me because I murdered my family. That's what's wrong.
one person, Chris Watts.
I have a problem with these letters, actually, a really big problem. As I read them, I realized something similar to my father. And when I did the podcast, Happy Face, it was a journey about, for me, to find out the true narrative of what really happened with my father's crimes. Because at the end of the day, this is from Chris Watts. He's the one speaking for the victims. And what makes this gospel? What makes this truth? This is propaganda for his agenda. He is a narcissist. This is pushing forward what he wants to be pushed out into the world. And that's what I have a problem with.
I couldn't help but notice that he's in jail for 5 life sentences.
Right.
That's what your father's in
Same
jail
as
for.
my father, right? Right.
Do you think your dad would have hurt you the way this man hurt his family?
Well, see, that's what was interesting for me. When I was going on my journey, my grandfather, before he passed away, at the kitchen table, matter-of-factly told me, you know, your dad had confessed to me that he thought about killing you kids. And yeah, he said that to him. So I asked him, when did my dad say that to you? And he said it to me, actually, after he was arrested and when he did a prison visit with him. And my grandpa looked at me like, that's unbelievable. And so, but I thought the same too. I thought, like, how could we think about our parent being able to kill us? Like, it doesn't seem fathomable. You can't wrap your head around that. So I always had a question mark, is that possible? Well, my father murdered 8 women, he tortured animals, and I learned that sociopaths, psychopaths, they compartmentalize things. So, you know, you're safe if you're not a threat. It's all self-driven. It's all about them. And so if I was a conflict to him, to my father, and I had to be getting rid of, I would be in the way and he would have gotten rid of me. And there was chances for him to. He almost confessed to me the murders. And if he did, then I would have gone to the cops like he said I would have, and I wouldn't be here today. So I believe my father, absolutely, after reading these, I believe my father really, truly, that's not being over dramatic, he would have killed me.
Joey, what do you think as a defense attorney about Chris Watts participating in this book, writing these letters? I mean, these letters that are just unfathomable, unconscionable.
Yeah.
So if you're watching D.A. Rourke, probably take some notes. Just saying.
It's shameful. So there's two ways to answer it. The first way is whether or not he, has a right to do it. The second issue is whether or not he should do it. Now, obviously, everyone has a constitutional right to say what they want, right? We're in a free country. You can say, do what you want, and that's okay. But the other thing has to do with whether it makes it right and makes it fair. Now, why should we expect anything less, right? Or anything more from a serial killer, right? Or to me, in my view, you're killing your family. That's serial enough for me. But the fact is that it comes down to basic decency, right? I will stand up every day in a court of law. I will defend someone's rights. Thereafter, there's a day of reckoning. That reckoning comes, and it came in this case with his plea of guilty, right? Where he acknowledged his guilt. Sometimes it comes before a jury, when members of the jury say you're guilty.
Should have had.
Thereafter, I think there's an atonement period, and I think you have to be very respectful. There's a family here that suffered a grievous loss. Unimaginable, a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, she's pregnant, he kills his wife. How could you do such a thing? What kind of human being does that? And then to come out, and to your point about speaking about it, like, it's you and I just having a conversation in the park. What message does that send? I think it sends the wrong message. I think it's not fair, it's not appropriate, it's not right, and I think it further condemns him. And so he's serving 5 life sentences. You know what? If he could serve more, it should be.
Let me, passion, I get it. Let me open this issue up to the whole panel. I'm still fascinated that this man did not appear to have a history. Yes, this is his story, his propaganda.
That we know of.
There doesn't seem to be anybody else saying that he was a bad apple before this all started. He's claiming a demon or an evil, a darkness came into him. He says it in these letters. Every one of these letters, look at them. They're all, God bless you, I wish you and your family a wonderful time. I mean,
that's manipulation.
It might be.
Yeah, that's clearly manipulation.
What do you think of this,
like
this
you learned
demon
from Nicole.
idea, your take on that? It is, in many faiths, fundamentally something they believe.
But here's what's certain. He is demonic. There's no question about that. But the idea that a demon possessed him in a temporary way, and that he's
calling
now
himself
free of that
the
and filled
demon.
with the Spirit of God is really
He says the demon controlled me. Yeah, he was the demon.
unbelievable. And
So
the
there's
reason for
truth
that
into
is that
his
he
lies.
doesn't seem to be remorseful. If the Spirit of God was filling you and that demon had fled, you would be on your knees every night crying buckets of tears about your lost family. This man seems only to care about himself, his image, and his future, which he seems to think one day will involve freedom. This man is a narcissist.
I don't think there's anything to do with the supernatural, with demons. This is science. This man didn't just snap. He didn't just start ruminating right before he killed his family. This is something that was percolating years before this. This kind of psychopath, this kind of narcissism and grandioseness, this isn't something that he just developed. This is something that this is nurture and nature coming together. From my study of psychopaths, we learned that there is a genetic part of this. So I believe he was predispositioned to do this, that the motive of being with Nikki drove him to do this. What I found fascinating—
Nikki the girlfriend.
Nikki the girlfriend. What's fascinating to me too is that the psychopaths aren't really, they're cookie cutters of themselves. I could basically put his name in for my dad. Like, they're the same. And then when I read the letters, my father chased after his mistress after prison. I believe part of his motive for these letters is a reach out to the mistress to come back to him and start talking to him.
I thought that same
He
thing.
talks so much about Nikki,
Yeah, I don't see this as a genetic issue. I see this as an issue that relates to him and his way out. The fact is that I think this is something he was very self-interested. He wanted a way out. You can blame things on spirits, and the hardest thing to blame is on yourself, and that's what I think he overlooks. The fact is that he made a conscious choice. We all make conscious choices every day. That conscious choice was to get rid of his pregnant wife, was to, completely, and I think everyone here who has children, we would die for our kids every day and twice on Sunday. Not him. What does he do?
I would die for my kids.
He decides, because he wants to gallivant and do whatever he's doing, that he has to get rid of them, and therefore he kills them. So I don't see demons, I don't see spirits, I don't see witches. I see an individual who wanted a way out. This is the way he took, and as a result, that's why he's serving 5 life sentences.
Coming up, we're revealing the shocking way Chris Watts thinks he'll end up freed from prison someday.
Being good.
We're back trying to understand the mind of convicted killer Chris Watts, who's serving 5 life sentences for brutally murdering his wife, unborn son, and 2 daughters. In his conversations with author Sherilyn Cato, Watts said he's convinced that if he's well behaved in prison, He'll be freed on good behavior in 25 years. So, Joy, put your legal hat on.
That's what we call delusion, okay? The fact is he's going nowhere, all right? If he get with good behavior, you know, part of what we do in our system when we sentence people, there's three real prongs to it, very briefly. One is punishment, one is deterrence, right? You want to punish people for what they did, you want to deter their conduct and others' conduct. The other is rehabilitation. So I ask you, a person who would engage in this type of behavior, what measure of rehabilitation do they have in them? Would anyone here feel safe and comfortable if he lived next door to you in the same village, town, in the same state as you did? No one would feel safe. And so I don't see any path for him, absent a pardon by the governor, for him to be out of jail. And that pardon is not happening anytime soon.
So, but for he's considering appealing. Maybe he confessed because he was out of his mind that day.
Okay. So here's the process very simply. When you are pleading guilty, a judge asks you questions, right? We call it in law an allocution. In an allocution, they say, Dr. Oz, have you had any drugs or intoxicants today? No. Are you a user of any drugs or intoxicants? Yes. When? At what point? You know, you state whatever it is. Is there any time or anything today that's impairing your judgment? No, there's not. Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty? Yes. Do you recognize you committed this crime? Right. Do you know you're giving away certain rights? In other words, they question you chapter and verse. Tell me what you did. Tell me how you did it. Tell me who you did it to. So now I'm going to come back to the court and say, Judge, none of it was right. I lied. I was under intoxicants. And so he's not getting his plea back. And even if he did, what does that get you? It gets you a new trial. And what jury, having heard all the evidence and information, if he gets that new trial, is going to say, you know what, you're not guilty, you go home? It's not going to happen.
You convinced me. So they go back to the theme of his mistress, Nicole. So one thing that I was sort of taking away from this is that he would never have killed his family, he says, if it wasn't for his love for her. And apparently, allegedly, she said something, the mistress, that she wanted to bear his son. And Shannan, his wife, who he murdered, was pregnant with a son. I want to understand more about this relationship. Mara, do you know where Nicole is?
Me too.
Yeah, we don't know where Nicole is right now. What we do know is that she fully cooperated with authorities, and there are reports that she's in the witness protection program. So she is presumably starting a new life with a new identity. But she really seems to be very concerned about what that new life looks like, because she reportedly told investigators she had been Googling information about Amber Fry. Do you remember Amber Fry? Yes. This was Scott Peterson's mistress. She was caught up in Lacey Peterson's murder case. And so this woman is presumably looking at Amber Fry to see what her life will look like 10, 15 years down the line. But what's really interesting about their relationship, they were only together for a few months. Now, this man is describing her as his soulmate. She's the motive for killing his entire family. But clearly, when you look at the narcissism of this man, it was still all about him. What did she reflect that he wanted to see in himself?
Melissa, do you think that he would have murdered Nicole?
It's very possible. Yeah, very possible when, I mean, that's just classic, the discard of a narcissist. If she's no longer useful and he finds another mistress, another woman, yeah, she's out of the picture and possibly dead. But I think with Nikki, what's interesting is, like, my mind goes to, I wonder what she's thinking. I wonder what she's thinking, knowing that the man she was with murdered his family. And she has to think, he could have done this to me. Yeah. And I think that's why she was actually Googling Amber Fry, too, is to see a lot of people were angry with Amber for being a mistress. Victim? So do I think she's fabulous for being the other woman? No. But I don't think she knew that he was capable of this at all. And I think she is getting another take at life and afraid probably to come forward because people might have.
Why does she get a second go?
Yeah.
You guys have been wonderful. Thanks for opening our eyes to so many
opportunities. She shouldn't get an extra go. She destroyed a family.
We'll be right back. Coming up, we've obtained video of a chilling college presentation Chris Watts gave years before these horrific murders. What it reveals will really shock you.
I can say with a certainty that I always loved Shannan and always will. But there was always this lingering fear that I would do something wrong. It broke me down spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. Was I aware of it? I don't think so. It's like the frog that was put in a pot full of water, and slowly the water turned to a boil, and the frog boiled to death. I didn't see what was happening until it was too late, and that mistake cost me the chance to grow old with my family for the rest of my physical life.
I'm glad you're going to be there.
Those are the words of convicted killer Chris Watts, a man who claims he'll always love his wife, and yet he killed her, their unborn son, and their
Hate to
2
see how
young
you hate
daughters.
somebody.
Here to help shed more light on this unfathomable crime is criminologist Dr. Casey Jordan. Chris always feared that he would do something terribly wrong, and then he uses this metaphor of a boiling frog.
Which is so ironic because the frog boiling slowly is a metaphor we use usually in victimology and criminology to explain the psychology of a domestic violence victim or somebody who is being abused by their spouse. And that's completely not the situation with Chris. That whole idea that you acclimate to a situation over time. But based on these letters, Chris Watts was actually stewing in this plan for many months. And when he met Nicole, and he says, if I'd never met Nikki, this never would have happened. Basically, what he's saying is that he had planned it all along and that she uncorked his lust. So that metaphor of a frog boiling slowly, it doesn't fit him.
So when I've looked into his story, and you're spent a lot of time on this, I don't find any evidence of violence, any evidence that would have tipped me off that he could have done this. What did we all miss?
Well, we always look for...
I just think it's funny that it's probably beaker down here, and these beakers probably have Gatorade in them.
signs of violence after the fact, the kind of Monday morning quarterbacking. And a lot of people always say there have to be signs. And we think of serial killers, and you know, that trifecta of torturing animals and bedwetting and fire setting, and none of that existed for him because his psychology is actually nothing like a serial killer.
It's not?
I don't think so. And we always go around later when we have these men who kill their entire families, or women. They're really mass murderers. We call them family annihilators. And what they're really trying to do is clear the slate of this family so that they can start over anew. And that is exactly what Chris admits in these letters. He met Nikki. He became almost intoxicated with this new life he had with her, which means the sex he was having with her on the side, you know, cheating on his wife. He loved it. He was like a teen. We call this situational regression. He's on fire. He's full of lust. And he's thinking, if I can just get rid of my family, I can be with her.
Turn the clock back.
Yeah.
Be the person I wanted to be.
Exactly.
She
Like
definitely
he was
described
like
that pretty well.
a teenager or somebody in their 20s who was in love for the first time.
So Sherlyn Cato says that Chris claimed he may have been possessed by a demon. Those are his words. You argue this is just an effort to control how he's perceived.
Correct. I call this impression management. I mean, he talks about a dark side must have taken over him, and he calls it a demon. But we're not talking about an actual demon, like an exorcisable demon. We're just talking about his conscience. He had to be using impression management to think that he wouldn't be the first suspect. And now he scapegoats onto a demon.
So Dr. Jordan says a 10-minute college presentation about relationship deterioration. That's the topic, relationship deterioration. It was in a communications class.
Oxymoron
Chris
on
Watts
that one.
posted this online 7 years ago. And Dr. Jordan thinks it'll help illuminate more about him. Take a look at two of the things that Watts said his research uncovered on the subject of relationships ending.
Sometimes when you have children and your relationship starts to deteriorate, a child could help repair it. Sometimes people, when the relationship starts to dissolve, repair is not an option and they want to get away and start new.
Get away and start anew. What does this video tell you about?
Wow,
You know,
I never saw
He prepared
that.
this video for a college class, and this was 6 months before he married Shannan. He was already doing relationship dissolution research. And to me, this is really, I don't know that he ever really loved her. I think that he was just doing what society and his family and Shannan expected, and he felt like he was on a runaway train. So he ended up in this marriage, but then once he was in it, he experienced this transformation. I mean, compare that image of him, Chris Watts, there. He's awkward, he's a little stilted in his presentation, he's overweight, and then we see him after Shannan's gone missing. Muscular, you know, really manly man. And he's lost weight, and he's got his goatee, and he's a stud boy. And I really think that transformation made him think, I can kill my wife and children, and I can be with Nicole. And then he couldn't see 30 seconds beyond that decision.
Dr. Jordan, profound insights. Thank you very much.
Great to be here.
We'll be right
She
back.
was very good. Holy cow. So with that being said, guys, I wish we could have more take on Nikki's aspect, which I'm going to see if they have anything more about Chris Watts. But literally, watching at the end that Chris did that presentation, I should say, he was talking about pretty much 7 years into his future, what he was going to do that he said not to do. He thinks that a child is going to fix it. Might not be able to be together, so they're going to separate instead of get out kind of thing, he said. So with that being said, comment down below. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. We're going to continue. We're going to continue until we finally see results and 100% justice. So again, I thank you guys for watching. Please take care, be safe, and as always, keep nerding on, and we will see you guys next time.